What's going on, Jerome's? Your Minnesota Vikings went to 4-0 on the season, although there's some stuff and some things with that defense in the second half. Now, they did allow the Packers to creep back in. They certainly weren't aided by poor field position. The Packers scored touchdowns of 3 and 20 yards, but also the Vikings made some plays at the end. Byron Murphy Jr., 2 turnovers. It's fantastic. But, Flo, we said this is the perfect scenario for the Vikings where they won, but they got humbled and a couple wake-up calls, and coaching staff gets to chew some ass before taking on the Jets over in foggy London town on Sunday morning. And Flo fed the local media jackals on Tuesday, which, all right, there's some funny things. We'll get into it. So, first off, Coach, great team win. Hard to win in Lambeau. Great to win in the division. Also found things that can change on a dime, and there certainly is a lot to learn. Adversity is good. Withstand negativity and push through, which is something that's always concerning because you look at teams in the NFL or other sports too, where especially college football, where you have a dominant team that's not really tested. All of a sudden, they get in a tough game, or they don't have their fastball, or they're cocky and overconfident, and all of a sudden they're facing adversity, like where they're down, or it's tied late, and they haven't experienced this before. And you think about it, I mean, the Vikings haven't really been in a tight game. I mean, the Niners game was a lot more one-sided than the final score indicated, but I mean, that fourth quarter against the Packers, that's the first real fight that this team has been in. Right, and adversity is good. So finding out how to staunch the bleeding, finding out how to get back up after you got punched, it's really good. Quote, and also he talked about this, quote, "It's human nature to take the foot off the gas, can't do that." Now, it was hard to define, taking the foot off the gas. It's not like he forgot how to call defense. It's not like the players quit. There wasn't anything like that, but it really is a mentality. And also, he talked about how momentum is a thing. And he didn't say it, but obviously that muff punt by Jalen Naylor leading to that gimme touchdown from the 3, I mean, that obviously changed the dynamic of the game going into halftime. Because it'd be one thing, I mean, the Vikings had timeouts. They could have marched down and gotten an extra field goal. It could have been 31-0 at the half, but instead it's 28-7. Right. And also, he did shout out Byron Murphy Jr., where Murph did not have a good day. Throughout most of the game. Kind of got picked on a little bit, is what it is, but that interception as well as the punch out late that Beasley recovered, it's really amazing, man. And it speaks to the resiliency where you can just have a bad day like Byron Murphy did throughout most of it. Not to pick on him, but he stepped up and made the plays when it counted. All right, so you got to respect that. Also, Flores. So something I love too is that this coaching staff and the players, they all take ownership of the situation. And this goes into the whole, Jocko extreme ownership thing, where if you take responsibility, it inspires others to do the same. But if you're pointing fingers at everyone, they're going to point fingers back, right? It's like, it's not my fault, it's your fault. Or like, Doug Peterson already throwing his players under the bus. Doug's going to get fired. But he said, I could have done a better job putting them in positions, which is fair. I mean, you can't make the plays on the field. You're just the defensive coordinator. Put your guys in the best positions to make plays, and that's the name of the game, right? But when things go well, it's their defense. It's the players' defense. If things go poorly, it's on you, and that's coaching 101. But there's a lot of positives to take away. The way that they got a couple stops at the end, minus the 96-yard touchdown drive. Also talked about how. So this is always fun, like the chess match going back and forth. And this is something that the Vikings can get caught in because sometimes they have 4 outside linebackers on the field, and all of a sudden, if the team has a heavier grouping on offense, they can run the ball against a lighter box, right? And back and forth. They were caught in heavy. They can spread it out. So it's really fun, the whole chess match thing about getting the right personnel on the field and offense trying to take advantage. Because remember, if the offense doesn't sub, the defense can't sub. Right, and also if the offense subs late, all of a sudden that guy's running on the field, then you're trying to get guys on and off the field for defense. You can get 12 men, you could get offsides, you could get discombobulation. Yeah, it really is fun watching that chess match go down in personnel-wise. He continued. So adjusting to game script quicker, offense is doing a good job putting up points, and it's something that. It's almost like a DJ Khaled suffering from success because the Vikings defense, outside of the fourth quarter against the Packers, haven't really been in that fight. So they've been playing with a lead, and that's a lot different than playing from a deficit or playing even or in a close game. But having to adjust to that does make sense. Now, that's the reason why the Vikings are dead last in the league in terms of passing yards allowed, because those teams in all these games have been in desperation throw, catch-up mode. But also, that's the reason why the Vikings lead the NFL in sacks with 17, because you're going to have a lot more opportunities when it's a throwing script versus not, right? Rodgers... Yeah, stupid Rodgers. Also, king of the cadence, even though he screwed up things against his team, the Jets, and also Rob Saleh calling out the cadence. Green 18, F yourself. Also, Rodgers going to get in those free plays and also those personal traps that we talked about. So some of the defense is going to have to adjust to. And it's so funny. So Mike Max of CBS, he was trying to bait Flores to say something negative about the London crowd because, I mean, it is a more corporate crowd. I mean, there's a lot of Vikings fans at the UK, sure, but overall, they are, like, in general, football fans. And they're new fans. Well, some of them are new fans. Some are diehard, don't get me wrong. And there is, like, a cultural divide, right? So it's like me, the stupid American. I don't know all the rules and intricacies and unwritten rules about soccer, Premier League, right? And over in London and also international games in Brazil, Germany, like some fans don't know when to cheer or when not to cheer and all that stuff. So it's a lot different than a home game. So you're quiet when the team's on offense and operating, but you can cheer after a big play, and then you're loud as ish when the team is on defense. When your team is on defense, right? Max is trying to get, but Flores didn't take the bait. Like he knew that all these questions were loaded questions. Like the Vikings, going from 9 home games down to 8, giving one up for London. Even though they had 9 home games in the rotation this year, but yeah, he didn't take the cheese. It says that his kids are really excited for the trip. And I feel like a lot of family and friends are making the trip with the players and the coaches. The team is going to leave on Thursday afternoon. Some families are probably already over there, making this a true-on vacation versus a work trip for the team. So it's a really awesome experience. Also with the bye week coming up. I mean, with the bye week coming up, I wonder if it's mandatory for players to fly back from London or if they can just spend the next week in Ibiza, or Barcelona. All right, so Jefferson, it asked about Justin Jefferson. So said this guy works. It doesn't happen by accident. And talk about being able to practice against someone who's great like that every day, but also, a good person, an amazing leader. He first in the building, takes care of his body, puts in that work with the jugs machine. Always bouncing off ideas off of Keenan McCardle, wide receivers coach, and he really does set the standard, right? And here's the thing, like Jefferson is the face of the franchise now. And just think if he didn't have that attitude that he has, right? He had a great upbringing, great family. He's humble. He works his ass off. He got paid and didn't change him one iota, right? Whereas, I mean, a lot of players, not just receivers, but just like players in general, like this can happen quarterbacks too. All of a sudden you get the contract. You think that you invented football. You don't have to listen to anyone. And that matriculates down. Because if you're a bottom of the roster or a practice squad guy and you see Justin Jefferson, first ballot Hall of Famer, and a guy who's the highest paid non-quarterback in team history, and a guy who's the face of the franchise, you see him showing up early, getting the proper treatment to take care of his body, getting massages, as well as eating right and just putting it in that work before, during, and after practice. Like what are you doing? Like, if you're not putting in that same effort, if you're not putting in that same dedication, and you're a fringe guy and he's the number one guy, like, what are you even doing here? All right, so it's amazing what Jefferson does here. Also, big shout out to Patrick Jones II, saying he's playing some high-level football. Said he put in that work in the offseason, showed up a different physical specimen, and also, year 2, not just Jones, but also everyone on defense writ large, like settling into the scheme, understanding it better in year 2 as these things go along, is able to play faster, and he's doing that. Plus, like Jones, he does things, the sacks are fantastic, but also he does things for his teammates. He takes on blockers. He sets the edge. And that's what's great about this defense is that all these guys are playing a true team defense. Like there's no hero ball out there. Like no one is giving up pursuit. No one is giving up their gap to try and make a play, and then all of a sudden it gets banged up in their gap because they deflected their responsibility because they wanted their name announced by the PA announcer Alan Roach. Oh, blah 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 on the tackle. Blah blah blah. No, these guys are. And what's amazing is that there's a new star every single week, right? And they don't care who gets the credit. They just want to get the job done. And that's a direct reflection of Brian Flores. And it's really, really fun watching this defense. And don't worry, they'll rise again. They'll bounce back from the second half against the Packers. And it's a perfect situation. You won, but you learned a lot. You got humbled, and now you're back after it. So there you go. But that's it. Reaction to Brian Flores' presser. You guys are the best you know what to do. Skol production value.